All right, guys. So as promised, we are bringing a part two of our first roundup. We just wanted to have enough time to really discuss our predictions for the Dragon Ball Fighterz Season 3 pass. Now, Tim, in the first video, you had said that you're expecting Majin Vegeta to be DLC. You're expecting Topo, and who was the other person you had mentioned?
I I mentioned those two characters, and I feel maybe one a past movie character.
Mhm.
I just kind of feel like that's the staple that they're trying to do. So
Right.
maybe probably Tapion.
Hmm.
Even with this season pass, the getting back on the topic, like I just kind of felt that Super really did. It gave us some characters in terms of the tournament of power.
Hmm.
But my thing is, there was very very few. Like yes, there were the Pride Troopers, and then there was those Sailor Moon characters. I forgot their names.
The only
But
one that matters is rebrand, honestly. So
then at that point, it's kind of like who else? Who else could you possibly add other than the two Namekians? But like
I
who
think
would probably be like a tag team character like Android 17 and 18? That
right.
would be cool to see because like even with the old Dragon Ball Z games, like we finally got two new Namekian characters when they introduced Nail and King Piccolo. But what the
Mm-hmm.
thing that I liked about them was the differences in their fighting styles.
Mm-hmm.
Like King Piccolo was more of like a summoning character. Like he would spit out an egg, and one of his children would come and do like a finisher. And
Mm-hmm.
then Nail was more of like almost more of like a taijutsu character, but
Right.
with a
Very melee based. Yeah.
energy finisher.
Mm. I mean,
So
I think so. Here, all right. So I've thought about this because like I originally had done a prediction for the channel before season 3 was even announced officially, and I always weigh it versus like here's what I think realistically will happen versus what I personally want. What threw off my prediction list a lot is I wasn't expecting them to announce Kefla and Ultra Instinct out the gate. Because we've seen with the past two season passes, like they've always held like the more powerful, more popular characters as like the last thing, right? So first season pass, you get Vegeta and Zamasu. Um, second, I mean Vegeta, Zamasu, and I think Cooler in 17. Then second
mhm.
season pass, it was Gogeta and Broly. So I'm like, all right, if they put Kepler in Ultra Instinct, which obviously they were planning to do, I'm like, they'll be the last of the four. But now it's five, right? So we're getting five characters. Kepler was kind of like a bonus character. So I'm thinking, all right, either they're very, very, very confident of their last three character picks, or it's just they just gonna pick whatever they like at that point. Like, look, we gave you the first two characters that we know y'all really wanted, and now we about to just do whatever. So, in what I think my personal list of who I think will make it. So, out of necessity's sake, I think they're putting a rebrand. I think they're putting a rebrand simply because they've shown throughout this entire development cycle of this game, they have they lean towards female characters because the person in Arxis that's overseeing fighters is a woman, and we all know Dragon Ball games tend to lack female characters. Like I can't see any other reason to put Videl of all people as DLC other than they want to put in more female characters, which I'm
Yeah.
not mad at. So I see rebrand being added for sure. Um, I do think they're going to use some kind of Vegeta. Uh, I wouldn't, even though I think it is going to be Majin Vegeta, I wouldn't want them to do Majin Vegeta only because I feel like there was a intentional reason why there aren't that many Majin characters in this game. Like I think there's a reason why we didn't see Majin Vegeta, why we didn't see Deborah, why we didn't see any other version of Super Boo. Like I feel like they're holding that maybe as like a storyline for the sequel in some way.
Mhm.
Maybe Babidi comes back and turns everyone to Majins, kind of like Dragon Ball Heroes. Um, but I think it would be crazy to go 3 season passes without another form of Vegeta. So like I think yes, he makes it in. He makes it in as a DLC character. And then for the last character, I honestly think because they need someone who's still gonna like warrant the purpose of the pass, that they're gonna put it on Mega Shenron. They're gonna
Mm,
put it on Mega Shenron.
that's a good speculation.
Yeah, I think they put him in.
Because when you really look at it, all right, Baby Vegeta, I mean, and like even though he had the most fleshed out saga, I don't see him as a potential character
Hmm.
due to the nature of who he is. He's just basically a parasite taking over somebody's body.
Right.
Super 17, I don't see happening anymore due to the reincarnation of how they're doing 17 now.
Right.
And so when you really look at it, yes, like the whole Shadow Dragon saga with Omega Shenron, it is basically the most logical choice.
Right. And I think also, because for me, what I think in terms of how they approach DLC characters, and this is why this differs from like what I want personally, because I would have maybe swapped out Majin Vegeta for Pikkon. Um,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So my whole thing is like I think a lot of what they choose is obviously there's ultra popularity, right? So you put an Ultra Instinct because you know it's going to sell. But I think they look a lot into moveset diversity, especially for a series like Dragon Ball where a lot of the characters fight the same or use very similar attacks. It's like Omega Shenron to some degree has all the attacks of all 7 dragons. So you can give him a moveset where he can use fire, he can use ice, he can use electricity. You know, he has all his original attacks as well. He can use wind. He becomes like this almost elemental style fighter. Maybe even similar to Android 21, where like she, you know, where she had to absorb people to use different type of skills. Maybe he'll have something like that where he has like a rotating thing of elements he can use in his moveset.
Of course.
Um, but yeah, I would pick Pycon because again, Pycon is super unique. I think he has a standout enough moveset to be interesting enough, you know,
It's
to warrant being picked.
very
Um,
much said.
yeah, and of course, you know, like for me, like I said, I would want like Master Roshi. You know, I think we all do, but for whatever reason, that's not happening. So I think I think it's a mixture of we're going for popularity, we're going for moveset diversity, which is also why I think Ribrianne will make it because Ribrianne also has a very diverse moveset. I know people hate her. I get it. I understand why. But I'm like, no one else fights with love arrows in Dragon Ball franchise. Nobody. You know, she's a very unique character. Um, I guess my last thing for this topic, for this second segment, is do you feel that they're going to handle fighters with the same way they handled Guilty Gear for PS4, where it's like instead of releasing a proper sequel per se, it's just a DLC expansion pack. Especially with how they handle the rollout of season 3 with introducing a whole new gameplay mechanic.
Uh, I'm scared that they might go that route because even like how they did the Blaze Blue series, where like they just added 2 new characters and a couple of gameplay balances, and it's a whole new edition, and just say buy it. Like it's kind of like forcing you to. I hope they don't take that route because that I feel like that would leave a very sour taste in their fan base because especially since they've done that for so long with the Blaze Blue series, they did it with
Right.
the Guilty Gear series. Um, I just hope not. I
Yeah.
really hope not.
I agree with you too. I agree with you. I think it would be better to see them kind of step away from the game for a little bit, and really think about how to make Dragon Ball Fighters 2 stand out more than Fighters. Maybe take another approach to that story mode because that story mode was garbage. Um, really introduce maybe even like a tag in, tag out mechanic with even some of their what's it called? Their team players, right? So maybe in this game, in this part 2, you can pick Goten and Trunks as a team, but you can switch out between how they fight. Or even if you don't, even if you decide to do the whole like team up, they both fight as a unit. It's like put in Goten and Trunks. I think them 2 together could make a worthy character. Put in the Namekians for all the reasons you said. Like put in these characters that are going to be unique enough to warrant a second game. Put in Team Ultimate. You got to put in Team Ultimates for the part 2 also. We need a flashy, like proper Team Ultimate mechanic. And I don't think these are things that can come with an expansion pass.
Yeah, because they've been hinting like Team Ultimates in terms of like, especially like as of lately with Gohan and Piccolo, and of course like Vegeta and Goku when the old Dragon Ball Super movie, and even just like the ending with Frieza and Goku against
Against Jiren.
yeah, we get against Jiren at the end. Like they've shown like those type of capabilities, but it's just like I said, we're in this bare minimum era, and DLC buy it the rest.
True. I hope that doesn't affect Fighters. I feel like Fighters, because it was such a risk, quote unquote, out the gate for Bandai Namco, where it's like we're gonna make this 2D Dragon Ball Fighter, that's not Xenoverse with 1,000,001 characters, and hope it sells. And it ended up doing really well. Like, I hope they're not just like, well, now we see dollar signs, so we're gonna milk this for all we got. But I guess it remains to be seen. Is there any character that if they were added to season 3 that you'd be like, no, like, why did they even bother to add this person?
Wow. It would have to be one of the Namek Saga characters.
Okay.
Like this Doria, Zarbon.
Even if they put them as a unit?
Yeah. Even as a unit.
Okay.
Even as a unit, I would feel that would be like very missed. Because and I get it, they skimmed over the full storyline probably for like a second installment. Because I do believe in the second installment we'll get basically all the sagas from like Raditz all the way up to Majin Buu, and of course like whatever era we're in the Super. Because I do feel like they're probably just using this time for the Moro saga to flesh out a bit more.
Right.
But yeah, I would feel those type of characters would just be a waste.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think we need any Namek Saga characters. I remember when I put out my initial list, somebody was like, they really want to see Raditz as DLC. And like, there's like a movement to have Raditz put in the game since he was in Ultimate Budokan, which is the game ArcSys developed for the 3DS. And I'm like, you guys really want Raditz? You want to pay to have Raditz as DLC? You want to pay $5 to play against the tutorial character in 90% of the Dragon Ball games, essentially. I think that would be a disappointment. Like, I've seen people Raditz. I'm like, please, for the love of God, do not put Raditz in the game as DLC. Put him in the next one, sure. Put him in the base roster. For me, it would be Raditz. As much as I want to see their take on Hercule or Mr. Satan, depending on your preference, I don't want to see him as DLC. I think that would be a letdown for me. And I think what you said at the end of the last video, like, I don't want to see whatever they're calling Vegeta's new blue form. Do not put that in the game. Do not put, if we're really going to go that route, only because we haven't had a Super Saiyan God representation in Fighterz, put in Super Saiyan God Vegeta from the Broly movie. I'll take it. I don't want it, but I'll take it.
That's a lot for me right there, bro.
Yeah.
That is a whole lot. Yeah, I mean, like with this, like with the last season, because I could tell it is the last season. It's like I do agree about your Omega Shenron comment. I do feel that rebrand. I feel that one as well. But Pikkon or Majin Vegeta, it's looking very, very highly.
Right.
It's looking very, very highly because there was another YouTuber who did another prediction. He did it based on the color palette that he saw for the missing shades. There was one that was blue and the color of Pikkon, so that's why, to me, I think those two characters are very highly.
Yeah, I mean, I there's other characters I think I would be fine with. I think if I don't see why they would go this route for this particular game. But for example, if they did put in Tapion in the game, I'm like, I'm not mad at that. I wouldn't be mad at Android 13 either. I wouldn't be mad at those choices. I don't think they fit based on how they've done the DLC so far. It just kind of seems random. But yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be Ribrianne, Omega Shenron, and Pikkon, or some variation of that, I'm $20 well spent, I guess. I'm not mad at that.
Of course.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to drag out to a whole nother episode. Thank you, Tim, for so much for joining me for both part 1 and part 2. Thank you guys, anyone who tuned in and watched the whole thing. You are much appreciated. Make sure to subscribe. Tim, if they want to follow you, if you want to plug Risky Thoughts or everything that you got going on, where can they follow you at?
They could just follow me from my basic Instagram, Michael Smith. If anything, you can leave it in the bio for them.
Okay.
No problem, bro. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for making time to join me, bro. I really appreciate it.
No problem whatsoever.